United Arab Emirates says it will exit from OPEC on May 1st after almost 60 years, potentially weakening the group's control over global oil supplies and widening a rift between the UAE and its neighbor Saudi Arabia. Global oil prices climbed above $100 a barrel, and U.S. gas prices also rose to their highest level in around 4 years. U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed that Iran has informed Washington it's in a state of collapse. This comes amid reports that the U.S. leader is dissatisfied with Iran's latest proposal, stalling peace talks. An appellate ruling is expected this afternoon for former South Korean President Yoon who was sentenced to 5 years in prison by a lower court for obstructing official duties. This comes a day after an appeals court increased the sentence for his wife, Kim Keon Hee, to 4 years in prison on corruption charges. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. We begin this morning with the United Arab Emirates deciding to leave OPEC in May after nearly 6 decades. Analysts say that while the announcement will not have an immediate impact on global energy supply, it could help lower oil prices after the war if the country increases its production capacity. This comes as global oil prices continue to climb, rising above $100 a barrel. Our Lee Seung-jae starts us off.
The United Arab Emirates has announced it will leave the OPEC and OPEC Plus groups on May 1st, ending nearly 60 years of membership in one of the world's most influential oil alliances. UAE officials say the move is aimed at supporting the country's long-term strategy to meet rising global energy demand following significant investments to expand its oil production capacity. The decision signals a shift in priorities as the country looks to operate more independently in the global energy market. The departure of the UAE, a key and long-standing member, could disrupt the balance within OPEC. The group has historically worked to present a unified front despite internal disagreements over geopolitical tensions and production quotas. Analysts say the exit may weaken cohesion within the cartel and raise questions about future coordination among major oil producers. UAE Energy Minister Suhail Mohammed Al-Mazrouei said the decision followed a thorough review of the country's energy strategy. He also confirmed that the UAE did not consult with other member states, including heavyweight producer Saudi Arabia, before making the announcement. Markets reacted quickly with oil prices surging. Overnight Brent crude, the global benchmark, rose 2.5% to just over $104 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate climbed nearly 4% to around $100 a barrel. U.S. gas prices have also climbed to their highest level in 4 years, averaging $4.18 per gallon, as stalled peace talks involving the United States, Israel, and Iran continue to weigh on global energy markets. The last time prices topped this level was April 2022, following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and current prices are now about $1 higher than a year ago. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump claimed that Iran has told Washington it's in a state of collapse. This comes as tensions remain high over the Strait of Hormuz and stalled negotiations. Our Chungcheongbuk-do reports.
In a post on Truth Social on Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump wrote that Iran had just informed us that they are in a state of collapse. He added that Tehran wants Washington to reopen the strategic waterway as soon as possible, while they try to figure out their leadership situation. Trump did not explain how the message was delivered or who conveyed it, and Iranian officials have yet to publicly respond. His remarks come amid reports that he is dissatisfied with Iran's latest proposal on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. According to reports, Tehran has offered to reopen the key shipping route if Washington lifts its blockade on Iranian ports, while leaving nuclear-related issues off the table. The U.S. has maintained pressure on Iran since April 13, when Washington imposed sweeping restrictions on Iranian vessels navigating the key shipping route. Meanwhile, President Trump's approval rating has fallen to its lowest level since returning to office. A Reuters and Ipsos poll completed on Monday showed Trump's approval rating at 34%, down from 36% in the previous survey conducted a week earlier. The figure marks a decline from January 2025, when 47% of Americans approve of his performance at the start of his second term. According to Reuters, Americans are increasingly dissatisfied with Trump's handling of rising living costs in the conflict with Iran. Only 22% of respondents approve of Trump's handling of the cost of living. The pressure on households from rising prices is fueling concerns among Republicans that they could lose control of the U.S. Congress in November's midterms. 조영은, Arirang News.
An appeals court ruling is set to be delivered on Wednesday in the case against former President Yoon, who faces charges including obstruction of official duties and abuse of power. In the first trial, Yoon was found partially guilty of blocking the execution of an arrest warrant by the Corruption Investigation Office and for procedural violations tied to his declaration of emergency martial law. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. The appellate court will decide whether to uphold that verdict or hand down a different judgment. The sentencing hearing will take place at 3 p.m. at the Seoul High Court, with the ruling being live-streamed. And an appeals court order on Tuesday increased the sentence for Korea's former First Lady Kim Keon Hee from 20 months to 4 years in prison, following her guilty verdict on charges of corruption. The Seoul High Court overturned parts of the lower court ruling, finding her guilty of involvement in a stock price manipulation scheme and accepting illicit luxury gifts linked to the Unification Church. The court said Kim provided accounts and funds used in manipulating stock prices and recognized all charges related to gift-taking as bribery involving implicit solicitation. However, she was acquitted of allegations related to receiving free opinion polls from broker Yoon, the same as the lower court. Kim's legal team says it will appeal the ruling to the Supreme Court. President Lee Jae-myung is pushing to broaden Korea's diplomatic reach beyond its traditional partners. At a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, the president emphasized deeper engagement with the Global South. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yoo-jin reports.
President Lee Jae-myung has stressed the need to broaden South Korea's diplomatic outreach to the Global South following his recent trip to India and Vietnam.
변화의 물결 속에서 안정적 성장 동력을 확보하려면 특정 지역에 대한 지나친 의존도를 낮추고 우리의 선택지를 꾸준히 늘려가는 전략적이고 유연한 국익 실용 외교가 절실합니다.
Chairing his first cabinet meeting since the trip on Tuesday, President Lee said the war in the Middle East is reshaping the global economic and security landscape and called for a more strategic and flexible diplomatic approach. Tuesday's meeting reviewed the outcomes of Lee's state visits with a particular focus on strengthening economic ties with India.
어쨌든 미국, 유럽, 중국에 편중되어 있는 게 현실인데 인도는 지금 세계에서 제일 인구도 많고 14억 6천인가 7천만이라고. 근데 이게 이제 기업들이 독자적으로 진출하기에 초기에는 부담이 사실은 있는데 이 정부 간 협력이 되게 크게 도움되잖아요.
Lee's summit with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi resulted in an agreement to establish a ministerial-level Korea-India Industrial Cooperation Committee, along with an MOU to support cooperation between the two countries' small and medium-sized enterprises.
In the case of our ministry, one deputy director covers 5 to 6 countries, including India. Despite India's importance, our current institutional capacity remains limited. We need to strengthen our governance framework to reflect India's strategic significance.
At the same time, President Lee underscored the importance of maintaining stable ties with traditional partners. He urged resolving pending issues based on mutual respect and shared principles while building forward-looking relationships. The president didn't mention specific countries, but his remarks come after the U.S. reportedly restricted intelligence sharing with Seoul on North Korea following the unification minister's disclosure of the regime's nuclear facility in Kusong. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
The National Assembly's April session has come to a close after a rare bipartisan push for economic relief, and attention now is on a high-stakes constitutional vote in May and local elections in June. Our political correspondent Moon Ye-ryun has more.
The National Assembly's extraordinary session for April ended on Tuesday after a rare burst of bipartisan lawmaking despite weeks of intense political confrontation. Lawmakers approved a 26.2 trillion won supplementary budget aimed at easing the pressure on people from inflation and high energy prices linked to the conflict in the Middle East. The package includes direct relief payments for lower-income households, with the first round of applications and payouts already underway, alongside fuel cost support, transport discounts, and supply chain assistance. With the April session now over, attention is rapidly shifting to a major constitutional reform vote in May. National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik is urging the Conservative People Power Party to allow its lawmakers a free vote on the proposal. If passed, it would mark South Korea's first constitutional amendment since 1987. The proposed changes would formally recognize the democratic legacy of the May 18th Gwangju democratization movement, strengthen parliamentary control over martial law declarations, and add the state's responsibility for balanced regional development. To pass, the bill needs support from at least 197 of the Assembly's 295 lawmakers. Reform supporters currently have 187 signatories, meaning they need opposition backing. The People Power Party has opposed the move, citing concerns over possible future debate on presidential term limits. Supporters say the current constitution already blocks any extension of a sitting president's term. The political focus is also shifting to the June 3rd local elections now just weeks away. The DP hopes to build on recent policy momentum, while the PPP faces internal divisions over leadership and campaign strategy. Several races in cities such as Busan and Daegu are expected to test whether long-standing regional voting patterns are beginning to shift. Moon Ye-ryun, Arirang News.
Korea's foreign exchange trading surged in the first quarter on the back of rising foreign investment and bigger Korean won swings. According to the Bank of Korea on Wednesday, the daily average trading volume at foreign exchange banks reached a record $102.6 billion, up more than 21% from the previous quarter. Spot transactions rose 26% to $42.3 billion, while derivatives trading climbed 18% to $60.2 billion. The central bank said the gains were driven by increased foreign participation in local markets, along with stronger hedging demand amid heightened exchange rate volatility. A landmark of modern government architecture in Chungcheongbuk-do province has been given a new lease of life. The main building of the provincial office has reopened as a new cultural complex centered around picture books. Our Kim Sa-young reports.
Children follow their teacher through an exhibition hall, looking at picture books along the way. In another part of the hall, children are busy making their own picture books. There are cozy reading areas where young visitors can gather and read together, while bookshelves are full of picture books that immediately catch the eye.
Most libraries keep picture books together in one section, but here the books are everywhere, so it feels much more fun.
What was once the formal main building of the Chungcheongbuk-do Provincial Office has been transformed into a warm and inviting picture book library. Originally built in 1937 during Japanese colonial rule with donations from local residents, the building has now reopened as Picture Book Garden 1937. The most distinctive feature is that the building, designated as Registered Cultural Heritage number 55, was neither demolished nor significantly altered. Instead, the original structure was preserved as much as possible.
We wanted to create a place where exhibitions, hands-on experiences, and education could all come together. Using picture books, we created a cultural space that everyone can enjoy.
The exhibition hall has around 14,000 picture books. Along with well-known titles from Korea and abroad, it also features special exhibitions, including one dedicated to pop-up book artists. More than just an exhibition hall, the space is designed to be a place where local residents can visit, explore, and spend time. The historic 90-year-old building is opening a new chapter as a cultural space for Chungcheongbuk-do province. Books, exhibitions, and interactive experiences now fill the space where major decisions for the province were made. Kim Keon Hee, Arirang News.
A young couple who decided to return to farming 7 years ago are eyeing annual sales of over 300 million Korean won, or roughly $202,000. Their next goal is to make a meaningful contribution to the local farming community. Our Chungcheongbuk-do tells us more.
A growing site right near the Emerald Beach of Gangneung, Gangwon-do Province. A young couple who decided to give farming a try 7 years ago, Lee Sun-hee and Hyun Chung-hwan, are growing strawberries in this place. The couple initially chose to grow cucumbers. However, it was a complete failure. They immediately pivoted to strawberry cultivation. Thankfully, strawberries showed stable results from the very first year, and the couple is now eyeing annual sales of over 300 million won, roughly $202,000. Their strategy to classify strawberries based on quality, size, and shape, and then design specific distribution channels for each grade has been highly effective.
Since we do not go through the wholesale market, we can let the strawberries ripen fully and sell them in their best condition.
They supply strawberries to local cafes, bakeries, and school cafeterias near Gangneung. In fact, direct-to-consumer sales account for nearly 70% of their total revenue.
The freshness is truly outstanding. The amount of strawberries we have to throw away due to softening or spoilage is almost zero.
They also save on production costs by recycling nutrient solutions, which are typically discarded after a single use through a regeneration process. The couple is currently expanding the size of their strawberry farm, while their next goal is to make a meaningful contribution to the local community for future farmers. Chungcheongbuk-do, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. Britain's King Charles gave a speech at a joint session of the U.S. Congress on Tuesday, calling the alliance between the two countries, quote, one of the most consequential in human history. His address to Congress was only the second such address by a British monarch in history. King Charles also urged leaders to resist turning inward and voiced his support for NATO and Ukraine. Trump met Charles privately in the Oval Office on Tuesday, calling the meeting really good. A state dinner followed at the White House that evening. Elon Musk testified on Tuesday in his lawsuit against OpenAI. Musk told a California federal court he helped build the company as a charity and watched its leadership converted into a profit-driven enterprise worth over $850 billion. Musk is seeking $150 billion in damages and wants OpenAI returned to non-profit status. He also wants CEO Sam Altman removed. OpenAI's lawyers told jurors that Musk wanted to run the company himself and sued only after failing to gain control. The judge admonished Musk before proceedings began over social media posts attacking Altman. A verdict is expected by mid-May. In Greece, an 89-year-old man wounded at least 4 people on Tuesday after opening fire at 2 government buildings in central Athens before police arrested him over 200 kilometers away near the city of Patra. The suspect first entered a social security office and shot an employee in the leg, then opened fire at a nearby courthouse, injuring several workers. Authorities found envelopes with documents at the scene, suggesting a personal grievance. U.S. pop star Taylor Swift has filed trademark applications with U.S. Patent and Trademark Office covering 2 audio recordings and a staged photograph, a move that legal experts say is designed to protect her spoken voice and likeness from AI-generated deepfakes. Current copyright law does not cover AI content that mimics a voice without copying an original recording, a gap these filings on Friday aim to close. Taylor Swift's spoken voice and image have previously appeared without consent in fake advertisements, fabricated political endorsements, and explicit AI-generated material. Chu Ji-han, Arirang News.
Today brings a return to pleasant spring weather after yesterday's cooler conditions. Afternoon temperatures will recover to near seasonal levels, with Seoul getting up to 21 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Then temperatures will continue to rise through this week. Meanwhile, dry weather advisories remain in place for parts of Chungcheongbuk-do and Gangneung provinces. And as dry and windy conditions continue inland, the risk of wildfire remains elevated. Please use caution with any open flames or outdoor heat sources. And this afternoon, the capital area in Gangneung province will be under sunny skies, but the rest of the country will be under lots of clouds. Seoul, again, will be getting up to 21 degrees Celsius. Daegu, Daejeon will be topping out at 20 degrees with good air quality nationwide all day today. The sunny skies and warmer weather are in the forecast for the long weekend. Spending time outdoors will be quite comfortable. Just beware of outdoor fire use when camping and hiking.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.